Good morning, everybody. I am Mrs. R.Bindhiya. Today, I am going to talk on communication education technology topic, communication skills. Communication skill is an effective process only when the teaching learning process is needed. So the teaching learning process needs communication. And what if communication were not possible? If there is no communication, there is no socialization and there is no exchange of information. Since we are in a teaching learning process, we should know how to communicate with the students, how to use the audiovisual aids in a classroom, how to control the students, how to prevent the barriers of communication so that we can effectively conduct a classroom communication and give a good quality of education to the students. So it is a give and take process, and to give it qualitatively, we should give a good communication and develop good communication skills among the teachers as well as the students. There are few facts about communication. You have over 630 muscles in your body. Eye muscles are the busiest muscle in the body. Scientists estimate they may move more than 100,000 times a day. So eye is also one of the effective way of communication. Just by eye gestures, we can communicate many things. You have over 30 muscles in your face to help you smile or frown. It takes 70 muscles to smile and 43 to frown. So smile every time you see someone. So when we smile, we relax. And when our mind is relaxed, we produce good communication. The strongest muscle in your body is your tongue. Use it effectively. It takes the interaction of 72 different muscles to produce human speech. So when we speak, many different muscles function together to produce a communication. We use language for communication. So always interact in a language that the students can understand. So all this to happen, we have various muscles supporting us to communicate. So develop adequate skills to use these muscles effectively and qualitatively. Communication goals. For every task, there is a goal. So for a simple communication also, we have a goal. When we speak to somebody, we need to get and give information. So the aim of every little communication is to give some information to the other person. To persuade, that is, we want the other person to listen to us and to think the same way. So that is called persuasion. When a teacher or a mother is talking to the child, then the mother feels that whatever I feel, my child should do. So that persuading motto is behind a communication. When a teacher talks to a student, a teacher also wants the student to listen and behave the same way the teacher wants. So this is possible by simple communication. Next is to ensure understanding. When we communicate, we should make sure that the other person to whom we are speaking has clearly understood without any assumptions or any confusions. Then, when we communicate, we also want the other person to understand us and to act on our communication. So we need some implementation also when we communicate. So when we communicate, we expect the other person to act accordingly, which is based upon on our communication. The last and the final is to change the behavior. So when a mother is talking to a child who is doing mischief, the mother may want the child to change the behavior by simple communication. For this, she may use a single and a simple language, and she may use some stern gestures, and she may also warn the child. But finally, at the end of communication, the mother wants to change the behavior of the child. So communication is the only process by which we can get and give information, we can persuade, we can ensure understanding, we can get into action and also change the behavior of the other person. So all this can be done by simple communication goals. Critical success factor for life. For every life to happen, we need communication. And when there is communication, we can do many things in life. Only thing is we should have a quality of communication with a good communication skill. The majority of your perceived ability comes from how you communicate. And this can be divided into two. The major part of it is how you communicate it, and 30% is what you know. So, what we communicate depends upon our knowledge. If we are very knowledgeable, we can communicate better by giving more reasons, by quoting more experiences, and by giving updated knowledge. We can persuade the person easily. But when we don't have adequate information, we may not be able to communicate effectively. So for all effective communication, good amount of information and backup work is very much necessary. What is communication? Communication is known to everybody, but still we need to define it. Communication is the art of transmitting information, ideas, and attitudes from one person to other. Communication is the process of meaningful interaction among human beings. So a communication cannot be meaningless. It should be meaningful. It should make a change. It should give some relevant information and which is truthful and reliable. So it has certain essences with it to say that the communication is quality based. Its essences are personal process. So it happens between two people and it is quite personal. So occurs between people. It involves change in behavior. It means to influence others. So when we talk, we also influence others by means of communication. When we speak well, people feel that we know well. We are soft, we are hard, we are rash, we are not good, we are bad. All these things can be judged by means of simple communication. Expression of thoughts and emotions through words and actions. So when we communicate, we express our thought unknowingly. We may put in some emotions in our words also, and we may do some small gestures, and we may use some small actions also to complete our communication. That also helps the other people to understand better and also to judge our feelings. Tools for controlling and motivating people. So a mother can control a child by means of communication. A teacher can motivate a student by means of communication. A doctor can treat a patient by means of communication. A judge gives a judgment only through communication. So all things around us go by means of communication. So socialization is nil without communication. It is a social and emotional process. So why it is called an emotional process? Because socialization involves communication, and when we communicate, we put in some of our emotions in it and we complete it. So it is also an emotional process. So all this means communication. What are the most common ways we communicate? We communicate in different ways. First is by spoken words. It may be from different languages, but we use spoken words. Second, we use written words. When we write in an exam, that is also a kind of communication. When we type in a computer, or when we send a mail through our email ID, again we are communicating. So by writing or by speaking, by showing gestures, by visual images, by body languages, by showing gestures, by simple eye movements also, eye gestures also, we are communicating. So spoken word is not the only form of communication, but the written words, the visual images, you see a red signal in the traffic that shows that we should stop. We see an amber color, again that shows wait. When we see a green color image, signal in a traffic signal, we go. So that is also a very good medium of communication. Then we show body languages, like say we wave our hand saying bye, we show our hand saying come, we show our hand saying go. So all these are body languages. We put our hands to do together before we say namaste, but it is already understood that we are bowing our hands in respect. So all these gestures of our body say that there is some communication. So spoken words, written word, visual images and body languages are very well used in communication and they improve our communication skills. Types of communication. The first one is downward communication. Highly directive from senior to subordinates, to assign duties, give instructions, to inform, to offer feedback, approval to highlight problems, etc. So downward communication means that is we are the communication is from a higher authority to a lower authority, from a teacher to a student, from a superior to the lower person, subordinate. So it is a formal communication. Upward communication is from a subordinate to a higher authority. So it is non-directive in nature, from down below to give feedback, to inform about progress or problems, seeking approvals. Lateral or horizontal communication. Among colleagues, peers at same level for information, level for informing, sharing, for coordination and to save time. Lateral communication means it is between the people of same authority or same age group. Now, lateral communication is seen between the students in a college who are in the same year, first year, speak to first year very casually. Second year students speak to second year very casually. So that is a lateral or horizontal communication. In modern business environment, communication will extend beyond written or spoken word to listen to words. Visual dimension added by TV, computer has given to new meaning to communication. So we see news in a TV, we are here to news in radio, then we hear a lot of songs, then we see serials and other pictures, movies in the TV. All those are very good examples of communication. So the media, social media is a very good medium of communication because they are giving some information. They are entertaining us through communication. So all that TV, computer, online classes, then whatever we see in the TV, radio, or we see in the virtual media, all that are a very good means of communication. Now, communication networks, formal network, virtually vertical as per chain rule command within the hierarchy. So formal communication is from a lower to a higher authority. Now it is done virtually. An informal network is free to move in any direction, may skip formal chain of command, likely to satisfy social and emotional needs, and also can facilitate task accomplishment. The communication process. The actual communication process is by sender and receiver. For a communication to take place, a person who is going to talk is the sender. So he will have something in his mind to talk, or he would have planned that I have to say something. So the message in his mind is encoded. So that is called encodes. And the receiver is a person who is going to accept the communication. He is a receiver. He is going to hear it and listen it, and he is the decoder. The medium is the language. It may be Tamil, English, Malayalam, whatever language, both of them understand. So the common medium should be there. Whatever the sender says should be received by the receiver. So the language should be common for them. They should know the language. So sender, medium, and receiver. Then there is feedback and response. That is, the receiver will understand and give a response to the sender. That is feedback. If there is a barrier between them, like noise or the sender is not able to talk properly, he is having cough and cold, going on sneezing during the process of talking, and he is not able to talk continuously, he is having some hiccups or he is having some stammering problem, he is not well, then though he wants to talk, he may not be able to talk. And because of the disturbances, barriers, the receiver will not receive the message correctly. He may have some doubts, he may have some assumptions. So the feedback also will be poor. The sender would have wanted something to say, but the receiver would have understood something else. And ultimately, the aim of communication is not met. So this is communication process. Now barriers to communication. As we already have seen that barriers to communication will be noise. First thing, when there is a loud noise nearby in a classroom, no one can listen and the teacher will feel irritated. So that is noise. Second one, inappropriate medium. That is, if a teacher is talking in a language not understood by the students, again the communication is not going to be effective. Assumptions or misconceptions. Whatever a teacher says, if she is not telling it clearly in an understandable way, suppose it's a maths problem, and the teacher, whatever she says, if she is not clearly putting the solutions properly, then the students will not understand. So there should be no ifs and buts. There should be clear concepts and in an understandable way. Emotions. You should not give place to high emotions like crying or shouting or screaming in a communication. It will spoil the mood of the place. So strong emotions are not to be allowed. But a gentle smile, a gesture of acceptance, all these are always advised and accepted. Language differences. If a teacher speaks in a language that the students do not understand, so again it is a difference and a barrier. Poor listening skills. If the students are not ready to listen, they are already exhausted, they don't want the class. In spite of the that if the teacher is going on taking the class, then there is no point in giving her effective communication. So poor listening skills also will spoil the aim of communication. And distractions. There should be no distractions whatsoever in a place of this kind. So these all put together are the barriers of communication. So in a classroom, to have an effective communication, the teacher should make sure that there is no external noise, no inappropriate medium. The teachers should speak only in English, and the assumption or misconception should be taken away by preparing well for the class with appropriate ADAs and by questioning the students in between and allowing the students to ask doubts and to allow the students to take part and make the class more lively by making it a discussion session and not making it a one-way communication. The teacher should always make it a two-way communication for the students to interfere, ask questions, clear their doubts, put forth their ideas related to the topic that is being discussed and make the students more and more interested towards the topic. The teacher should always encourage the students to talk more, to read more, to listen more, and to put forth their opinion about the topic. Next, emotions. The teacher should always respect the students' emotions. She or he, as a teacher, should always encourage the students, motivate the students. Whenever they give a right answer, the teacher should appreciate the students well and she should increase the enthusiasm of the students by coming down to their level and should not use strong emotions like anger or scolding in front of others. And there should be no language differences. Though all students speak different languages, the teacher should always speak in English in the classroom. And poor listening skills. The teacher should also listen to the students. Their confusions, their doubts should be clarified adequately, and the teacher also should promote the students to listen better and should avoid distractions in the classroom. She should treat all the students equally. By her effective communication skill, she should impress and influence the students so that they also develop good communication skills by seeing the teacher. Hearing versus listening. Hearing is a physical process, whereas listening is physical as well as mental process. Hearing is a physical process, but it is natural and passive. Listening is physical as well as mental process. When we hear, we are just listening, but we are not thinking. But when we listen, we are listening as well as thinking. So hence, some mental process is also taking place. We hear something and we are trying to understand it. But when we are hearing, we are not thinking. We just listen and just go away, walk away. But in listening, we are listening, but also we are trying to understand and put it into action. So it is active and learn process a skill. So always promote your students to listen. And listening is hard. You must choose to participate in the process of listening. So a teaching can be very effective only when the students are ready to listen and the teacher is also ready to listen. Listening and speaking are used a lot. So here is a graph showing that writing 9%, reading 16%, speaking 30%, and listening 45%. So if this is the pictograph, then when we listen more, we understand more and we implement more. But not taught enough. It is the other way around here. It is going down. So normally not practice effective. When we are not communicating effectively, 70% of our all communication is misunderstood, misinterpreted, rejected, distorted, and not heard. That is why in a classroom, 30% of you are not paying attention right now. So when we don't listen, we are not prepared and we are not effective in teaching and learning. Now, values of listening. Listening to others is an elegant art. Why we call it an art? Because to listen, we should be patient, we should be ready, and we should have good curiosity. So good listening reflects courtesy and good manners. So listening is a part of discipline. So as a teaching learning process goes on, the teacher should bring in this discipline to their students by giving them a good habit of listening. Listening carefully to the instructions of superiors improves competence and performance. So if you want good competence and good performance, then listening is very, very important. The result of poor listening skill could be disastrous in business, employment, and social relations. So if we don't have good listening skills, we don't understand the work properly, we do a lot of mistakes, we create confusions, and we create problems for ourselves and for others. So in such a situation, whether we are a student or an employee or an employer, when we don't listen, we don't produce better. Hence, always have a good habit of listening to others before we do the work. Good listening can eliminate a number of imaginary grievances of employees. So no matter who the authority is, a higher authority or a lower authority, for a good function to happen, we should be a good listener. Good listening skill can improve social relations and conversation. So a conversation can be completed, a relationship can be very good and healthy only when there is a good listening skill between the sender and the decoder. The techniques to improve listening skills. There are many techniques. The three important techniques are paraphrase, summarize, and question. Paraphrase means restate what was said in your own words. Summarize means pull together the main points of the speaker. Question means challenge speaker to think further, clarifying both your and their understanding. So paraphrase is when you listen something, you repeat on your own, in your own words, whatever you have listened from the teacher. Second thing, you summarize. Whatever was taught to you, summarize, sit and summarize the topic in a written format or in a spoken format. Then you will have some doubts. So when you have a doubt, go and question the teacher. Challenge the speaker to think further, clarifying both your and their understanding. So when a student starts questioning, he learns more, and also he motivates the teacher to teach more. So this is a very good form of communication, and a teaching learning process will be successful in such a classroom. Practice paraphrasing. Hence it is said that paraphrasing should be practiced frequently. Paraphrasing is simply restating what another person has said in your own words. So use paraphrase or phrase such as, in other words, I gather that, if I understand what you are saying, what I hear you saying is, pardon my interruption, but let me see if I understand you correctly. So these are the ways you phrase and paraphrase. Practice summarizing. So when something is taught to you, try to summarize it from the beginning till end, leaving no points. And when you summarize it correctly, you will be able to correctly answer to the questions even without preparation for an exam. Summarizing pulls important ideas, facts, or data together, useful for emphasizing key points and setting the stage for further discussion. The person summarizing must listen carefully in order to organize the information systematically. Try out the summarizing phrase. So there are some phrases like the previous one. If I understand you correctly, your main concerns are. These seem to be the key ideas you have expressed. Practice questioning. The last one, questioning. Rephrase the following closed questions to make them open-closed or open-ended. Are you feeling tired? Isn't it a nice day? Was the last activity useful? Is there anything bothering you? So everything is fine. Then, so these are some of the questions that you can raise. Essentials of communication, do's. What are the do's of communication? Always think ahead about what you are going to say, that is planning. Use simple words and phrases that are understood by everybody. Increase your knowledge on all subjects you are required to speak. Speak clearly and audibly. Check twice with the listener whether you have been understood accurately or not. In case of an interruption, always do a little recap of what has been already said. Always pay undivided attention to the speaker while listening. While listening, always make notes of important points. Always ask for clarification if you have failed to grasp others' point of view. Repeat what the speaker has said to check whether you have understood the point. So always there should be a planning. You should use your paper and pen when you attend a class. Teachers should use simple words and phrases to communicate. She should make sure that the students have understood the concept or not. And before conducting a class, the teacher should do a very well preparation. She should be thorough with her topics, and the teacher herself or himself should not have any doubts. And the teacher should speak clearly and audibly, and she should have eye contact with all the students in the classroom and check twice with the listener whether you have been understood accurately or not. The barriers of communication should not be there in a classroom, and always pay undivided attention to the speaker while listening. While listening, always make note of important points. It's very important that the student should attend the class with a paper and pen. And the students should be motivated to ask more and more doubts, and also to produce points related to the topic. Should be always motivated and encouraged. The correct answer should be always appreciated, and repeat what the speaker has said to check whether what you have understood is correct. So these are the do's of communication, and when we communicate in such a way, it is called a communication skill. Essentials of communication, don'ts. What are the things we should not do in a communication? Do not instantly react and mutter something in anger. When somebody is communicating, do not show faces. Do not mutter. Do not react immediately. Allow them to communicate completely. Allow them to speak fully. Allow them to present their topic completely. And after they stop only, you interfere. So do not use technical terms and terminologies not understood by majority of people. So in a classroom, if the students don't understand a terminology, first give the complete definition of the terminology, then go to the topic with those technical terms. Do not speak too fast or too slow. The teacher should not rush with the topic, or nor should she slow down with the topic. Do not speak in inaudible surroundings, as you won't be heard. Do not assume that everybody understands you. While listening, do not glance here and there as it might distract the speaker. Do not interrupt the speaker suddenly because the speaker will not understand what to speak next. So do not jump to the conclusion that you have understood everything. So you should not interrupt the speaker and you should not look here and there and disrupt the class. And asking too many questions very frequently and distracting the teacher also is not encouraged. So these are the ways we spoil the process of communication. How to improve the existing level of communication. Improve language, improve pronunciation, work on voice modulation, work on body language, read more, listen more. So if you don't know a language, if you are not very influent in English, speak to other people in English very frequently to improve your language, read newspaper, listen to English news, and improve your pronunciation and voice modulation. And also use body gestures to communicate well. First, listen more so that you can produce more. And also have the habit of reading. Avoid reading or watching or listening unwanted literature, gossip, media, presentation, etc. So always stick to your reading material. Don't go and listen or be involved in social media, which will not give you a quality information. So interact with qualitative people, improve on your topic of discussion, practice meditation and good thoughts, think and speak. Do not speak whatever your mind says. Think and speak, think, read, prepare, plan, and then speak. So do not speak too fast. Use simple vocabulary. Do not speak only to impress someone. Look presentable and confident. So only present what you have read, only present which is scientifically proved, which has enough evidence. So your speech should give some knowledge. Your teaching should give some knowledge. Your experiences should be put forth so that the student can take home some information. Improving body language tips. Keep appropriate distance. Don't go very close to a person when you are talking. The person should feel free to talk to you. Only that will happen when you allow some space. Touch only when appropriate. Do not touch the talking person. Allow them to talk freely. Don't hug them. Don't go close to them. Stand little away and allow the person to speak and respect the person. Take care of your appearance. Groom well and keep yourself clean and follow hygiene. Be aware people may give false cues, maintain eye contact, don't have any fear, be confident when you're talking, maintain an eye contact with the person you're talking to, and smile genuinely. Whenever possible, keep smiling so that you will be relaxed and the person seeing you also gets relaxed. Use appropriate audio-visual aids. So when you use audio-visual aids like leaflets, pamphlets, handouts, models, charts, OHPs, overhead projectors, LCD projectors, some videos, some audios, some demonstrations. All this will help in improving the communication. So just by listening to someone, we cannot concentrate. No student can concentrate in a class after 45 minutes. But within those 45 minutes, if you use adequate amount of audio-visual aids, live presentations, some workups, some activities, if those things are given in between, then the student will be very well motivated. They will not be sitting, they'll be standing, they'll be doing some work, they'll be involved in some demonstrations. They will enjoy the classroom and they will not want the class to be over. because various activities are put forth with the class. So classroom is not meant for table and chair, but it should be an inclusion of a whiteboard, then LCD, then some activities, and then some demonstrations, then some group work. All that put together makes a classroom very, very effective. So communication skill means not only using our body language or words and writing, but it also includes using the audio-visual aids in our classroom. So when we use all the audio-visual aids in an appropriate manner, at the right time, choosing the right audio-visual aid, the communication skill will become more and more effective and the students will enjoy the classroom. So the teaching learning process can be made very interesting by a very good communication skill. So audiovisual aids have a very good place in communication. So in communication education technology, communication skill is very, very important, and this can be enhanced by use of appropriate audiovisual aids. So success for you will come when you take adequate efforts. So in the new global and diverse workplace requires excellent communication skill. So this is a place where we say survival of the fittest. So if you want to survive, you should make yourself fit. So you can make yourself fit with good communication skill. So good communication skill comes from good discipline, and good discipline tells you that you should have a good listening habit, good hygiene, and good learning capacity. So all this comes from proper reading, proper planning, and going through all the topics every now and then, frequently updating the information and communicating the right information the right time with proper evidence, with scientific principles, with proper reading material. The students should revise it again and again. They should go and search for further supporting evidences, for further supporting references. So when the student does more and more reading and writing work, the communication becomes more and more effective and it becomes more trustworthy and more qualitative. So hope the communication skill is very well understood